The rich children left their parents in the middle of the desert, but the elderly man held $1 million secret. Harold Wilson held tightly to Margaret Thompson's trembling hand as they watched their children's black car disappear down the dusty road of the Arizona desert. The sun beat down mercilessly, and only 2 old suitcases and a half-empty water bottle remained from 50 years of family dedication. It was when Margaret Thompson collapsed into sobs that reality hit Harold like a hammer to his chest. Their own children, those he raised by selling sweets in the town square to pay for private school, had just abandoned them in the middle of nowhere. "They said they'd be back in 5 minutes, Harold. Where are our boys?" Margaret cried, wiping her face with hands bruised from a lifetime of work. Harold swallowed dryly. He had overheard his 3 children talking the previous dawn when they thought their parents were asleep. Richard, the oldest, had coldly said it was time to get rid of the dead weight their parents represented. Michael, the middle child, had readily agreed, concerned only about future medical expenses, and Patricia, the youngest, whom he'd always considered the sweetest, had been the one to suggest the abandonment. "They'll come back, my dear. They will come back," he lied, pressing his lips together to keep from crying too. The hot desert wind stirred dust from the deserted road. It was August, the driest month of the year, and they were miles from the nearest town. Harold looked at his 65-year-old wife, who took medication for high blood pressure, and felt the weight of responsibility crash down on his 70-year-old shoulders. Margaret Thompson sat on one of the suitcases, bringing her hand to her chest. "I'm short of breath, Harold, and thirsty. So thirsty." He offered her the water bottle, knowing they needed to save every drop. The warm liquid went down her parched throat as Harold scanned the horizon for any sign of life. "Do you remember when Richard said we were going for a drive along the historic route?" Margaret asked, still trying to make sense of the situation. "He said he wanted to show where his great-grandfather's family lived." Harold nodded, but the truth was quite different. The night before, he'd heard Richard on the phone arranging with someone to sell their parents' house and split the money. They talked about a cheap clinic out in the country where they could leave the two without guilt on their conscience. The plan was simple: pretend it was an outing, abandon them on the road, and later claim they got lost on their own. Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, please take a moment to like and especially subscribe to the channel. It really helps us who are just starting out. Now continuing. The sun rose relentlessly when Harold heard the first engine rumble in the distance. For a moment, his heart raced, thinking their children had returned. But it was just a cargo truck passing in the opposite direction, raising a cloud of dust that made them cough. "Harold, I'm not feeling well." Margaret sighed, her face growing paler. He knelt beside her, feeling his wife's racing pulse. The blood pressure medication was in the bag left in their children's car, along with all the other medicines. "I need to tell you something, Margaret," he said, looking deep into her tired eyes. "I overheard a conversation last night." "What conversation?" "The boys, they—" Harold hesitated, seeing the pain his words would cause. "They're not coming back, my love." Margaret Thompson stayed silent for a long moment, processing the information. When she finally spoke, her voice came out as a wounded whisper. "They abandoned us on purpose. I heard them talking about putting us in a clinic and selling our house. Patricia said we were a burden in their lives. Richard agreed, and Michael only thought about the money they'd make." Tears streamed down Margaret Thompson's wrinkled face. 50 years of marriage, 3 children raised with so much love, sleepless nights caring for them when they were babies, a lifetime of sacrifice reduced to dead weight. "How could they do this to us, Harold? We gave them everything, everything." "I don't understand either, my dear. I don't understand either." Harold Wilson's phone rang. It was Richard. "Dad, how are you both?" His son's fake voice echoed through the device. "We're here on the road, waiting for you to come back as you promised," Harold replied, controlling his anger. "Oh, Dad, we had a problem with the car. We'll be a little longer. Why don't you find some shade?" "Richard, it's 2 in the afternoon. Your mother isn't well, and we don't have her medicine." "Relax, Dad. We'll be there soon." The call ended. Harold knew it was another lie. He put the phone in his pocket and helped Margaret Thompson to her feet. "Let's find some shade, maybe a tree or a large rock." They walked slowly along the road, carrying their heavy suitcases. With each step, Margaret Thompson grew weaker. The pink dress she had carefully chosen for the family outing was soaked with sweat. "Harold, my legs are shaking." He supported her, feeling his own body protest against the strain. 70 years old and a lifetime of hard work were taking their toll, but he couldn't give up, not when Margaret Thompson depended on him. By the roadside they found a dry tree that offered little shade. Harold spread his shirt on the ground for his wife to sit on. "Do you remember when the kids were little?" Margaret asked, staring into nothing. "Richard always said that when he grew up, he would take care of us forever. Patricia used to draw little pictures of the four of us living in a big house. And Michael promised he would never abandon us." "Yes, I remember. I remember everything." "Where did we go wrong, Harold? What did we do wrong?" Harold had no answer. They had been dedicated parents, working hard to give their children an education and opportunities. When Richard wanted to go to business school, they sold their motorcycle to pay for it. When Patricia decided to get married, they spent all their savings on the wedding. For Michael, they lent money they were still paying back. The phone rang again. This time, it was Patricia. "Dad, are you guys okay?" "Your mother is not well, Patricia. Where are you?" "Dad, something unexpected happened. The car broke down and we need to call a tow truck. It's going to take a few hours." "Patricia, we're your parents. Don't lie to me." There was silence on the other end of the line. "Dad, You what? Are you going to tell me you didn't plan this?" Another silence. Then Patricia hung up. Margaret Thompson had heard everything. Was that Patricia? Yes. And what did she say? Harold took a deep breath before answering. "That the car broke down and it will take a while for them to come back." "Harold, look me in the eyes and tell me the truth. Are they coming back or not?" Margaret Thompson's blue eyes, which he had loved for 50 years, searched his face for honesty. Harold couldn't lie. "No, my love. They're not coming back." Margaret Thompson closed her eyes and leaned her head back against the tree trunk. "So is this how our story ends? Abandoned like dogs on the road? It won't end like this, I promise it won't." "How can you be sure?" Harold hesitated. There was a secret he had kept for over 40 years, something even Margaret Thompson didn't know, something that completely changed their situation. "Because I have something our children don't know exists." "What are you talking about?" "A secret, Margaret. A secret that can change everything." She opened her eyes, confused. "What kind of secret?" Before Harold could answer, another truck passed on the road. This time the driver slowed down upon seeing them and stopped a few meters ahead. A middle-aged man with a graying beard and simple clothes stepped out of the cab. "Good afternoon. Do you folks need some help?" Harold stood up, suspicious. A lifetime of experience in the Arizona desert had taught him to be cautious with strangers. "Good afternoon. We're waiting for our children to come back. It should be soon." The truck driver looked around the deserted road and then at the elderly couple, clearly in distress. "How long have you been here?" "A few hours," Margaret Thompson replied, her voice weak. "And how long ago did your children leave?" "About 3 hours," Harold admitted. The man shook his head. "Listen, it's none of my business, but this road is dangerous. At night, the wild animals come out, and almost no one passes by. If you want, I can take you to the nearest town." Harold looked at Margaret Thompson, who was clearly exhausted. "No, thank you. We'll wait." "At least accept some water. I have a gallon here in the truck." The offer was tempting. Their bottle was almost empty, and Margaret Thompson needed to hydrate. "All right," Harold accepted. The truck driver brought a gallon of fresh water and 2 disposable cups. Margaret Thompson drank eagerly while Harold asked questions. "Do you know this area well?" "Yes, I do. I'm from around here. My name is Anthony Miller. I've been working in transportation for 30 years. And you?" "Harold Wilson and my wife, Margaret Thompson. We live in Lexington." "Lexington? That's far from here. What brought you out this way?" Harold hesitated again. How could he explain that their own children had abandoned them? "We came for an outing with our children. They went to fix a problem with the car." Anthony didn't seem convinced, but didn't press further. "Look, I'll leave my phone number with you. If you need anything, you can call, and if your children haven't returned by evening, I'll come get you. You can't stay here overnight." "Thank you, but that won't be necessary," Harold replied, too proud to accept charity. "Harold," Margaret Thompson tugged at his shirt sleeve, "what if they really don't come back?" "They will come back," he insisted, more to himself than to her. Anthony got into his truck, but before driving off, he shouted through the window, "If you change your mind, call me and be careful." The vehicle moved away, leaving the couple alone on the road once again. "Harold, about that secret you mentioned," Margaret Thompson said, taking advantage of their solitude again. "It's complicated, Margaret. We have time, and it seems more time than we thought." Harold sat down beside her, removing his straw hat and running his hand through his greying hair. "Do you remember when we started dating? 52 years ago. As if it were yesterday. And do you remember I worked at Mr. Oliver's farm earning almost nothing?" "I remember. My father said you were too poor for me." "Your father was right about me being poor, but he was wrong about one thing." "What?" "About me not having ambition." Margaret Thompson turned to look at him more closely. "I don't understand. Margaret, all these years, every time we had a little money left over, no matter how small, I saved a part of it. At first it was just a few cents, then a few dollars, and when our children grew up and started earning well, I managed to save more. But Harold, our bank account never had much money, because I didn't keep it in the bank." "Where then?" Harold looked around, making sure they were alone. "Buried." "Buried? Where?" "In several places, some here in the desert, others near home. Places only I know." Margaret Thompson was stunned. "How much money, Harold?" "A lot, Margaret. Much more than our children imagine. But why did you never tell me?" "Because I was afraid. Afraid that if we knew we had money, our children would become complacent. I wanted them to fight for their lives, to earn things through their own efforts. And you succeeded. The three are successful. But look what they've become, Margaret. Greedy, cold-hearted, capable of abandoning their own parents." Harold's phone rang again. It was Michael. "Dad, how are you both?" "In the same situation as 3 hours ago, Michael. Stranded on the road." "Dad, don't be dramatic. We're coming. It's just a matter of time." "Michael, answer me one thing. Did you really have car trouble, or is that a lie?" Silence. "Dad, Answer yes or no." "Dad, the situation is complicated." "It's not complicated, Michael. It's simple. You abandoned us because you think we're a burden. Isn't that it?" "Dad, you don't understand." "I understand perfectly. I understand that I raised 3 ungrateful children who only think about money. Speaking of money, are you still curious about the house safes combination?" Michael was silent for a few seconds. "How do you know that?" "Because I overheard you 3 talking in the early hours, and I heard you asking about the combination. Dad, it's not what you're thinking." "Then explain what it is, Michael. Explain why you want the safe combination if it's not out of greed." We just wanted to make sure you're financially secure." Liar. Harold hung up the phone and threw it far away against a rock. The device shattered. "Why did you do that?" Margaret Thompson asked, frightened. "Because I'm tired of hearing lies, Margaret. 50 years raising these children only to find out in the end that they only care about our inheritance. But now, how will we ask for help if we need it? We have Anthony's number." "Did you throw that away too?" Harold checked his pockets and found the paper with the truck driver's number. "It's here." The sun was beginning to tilt toward the west, indicating the day was coming to an end. Their thirst had increased, and the shade of the withered tree offered little relief. "Harold, I'm scared." "Scared of what?" "Of dying here. Of our children never knowing that we loved them, despite everything." "You're not going to die, Margaret. I won't let you." "How can you be sure?" "Because I have a plan." "What plan?" Harold stood up and walked a few meters down the road, observing landmarks he'd known since his youth. "You won't believe it, but we're just a few miles from one of the places where I buried money." "What do you mean?" "This road passes near the farm where I worked when I was young. I knew every inch of this land. And in a specific spot, about 15 years ago, I buried part of my savings. Margaret Thompson struggled to her feet. How much money? Enough to buy our freedom from ungrateful children. But how will we get there? Is it far? About 3 miles we can walk. Harold, I can barely stand. How am I going to walk 3 miles in this sun? He looked at his wife, seeing the exhaustion written on her face, and had an idea. Let's call Anthony, he can take us. But how will we explain that we want to go to a specific place in the middle of nowhere? We'll tell the truth. Part of it, at least. Harold used Margaret Thompson's phone, which was still working, to call Anthony. Hello, Anthony. It's Harold. You gave me your number earlier. Hi, Harold. Did your children show up? No. And we've lost hope that they will. Wow. What a situation. Do you want me to come pick you up? Yes, we do, but not to go to town. I'd like you to take us to a specific place here in the area. What place? It's complicated to explain over the phone. Can you come here? I'll explain in person. Of course. I'll turn around and be there in half an hour. While they waited, Harold tried to prepare Margaret Thompson for what was to come. Margaret, when I say where I want to go, you might be surprised. Why? Because it's a place that has special meaning for both of us. What place? The farm where we met. Margaret Thompson's eyes filled with tears, but this time they weren't from sadness. Mr. Oliver's farm, where you used to work. Exactly. But Harold, that farm was sold years ago. There's nothing left there. The farm was sold, but the land remains, and with it our memories, and a few other things. Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, please take a moment to like and especially subscribe to the channel. It really helps us who are just starting out. Now continuing. Anthony arrived as promised, parking the truck next to the tree where the couple was resting. So Harold, where do you want to go? About 3 kilometers from here, on a side road that leads to what used to be St. Anne's farm. I know the place. But why do you want to go there? There's nothing but empty land. There is something, Anthony. There's our history. The truck driver looked at the couple with curiosity but respected their privacy. Hop in. Let's go. The journey lasted 15 minutes along dusty dirt roads. Margaret held Harold's hand tightly as the truck bounced over potholes. There, Harold pointed to a rusty gate. You can stop here. Are you sure? There's nothing here. There is, Anthony. Things that eyes can't see. The couple got out of the truck, carrying their bags. Anthony looked worried. Do you want me to wait? No need, but thank you so much for everything. How will you get back to civilization? We'll find a way, Harold replied, with a confidence that surprised even Margaret. Anthony drove away reluctantly, leaving the couple alone before the gate of the old farm. The place was abandoned, with overgrown weeds and signs that no one had set foot there for years. Harold, what are we doing here? Come with me. They passed through the gate and walked across the abandoned property. Harold walked with steady steps, as if he knew every stone along the way. There, he pointed to a large tree that stood out on the land. That's where it all began. What? Our story. It was under that tree that I asked you to be my girlfriend, remember? Margaret smiled for the first time since they were abandoned. How could I forget? You were so nervous you could barely speak. And you turned red as a tomato. Harold, it's beautiful to remember, but why did we come here? We can't be nostalgic forever. We need a practical plan. The plan is right there, he pointed to the base of the tree. I don't understand. Harold walked to the tree and began examining the trunk, looking for specific marks. He found what he was looking for, 3 small cuts in the bark, made by himself 15 years earlier. Margaret, help me dig here. Dig? With what? With our hands, stones, twigs, anything. Harold, have you gone crazy? I can't dig with these old hands. Then sit there and rest. I'll dig. Harold knelt and began digging with his hands. The ground was hard, dried by the strong Arizona desert sun, but he persisted. After half an hour of intense work, his fingers touched something different. Found it! Found what? The box. With great effort, Harold pulled out a metal box wrapped in plastic tarp. It was well preserved, protected from moisture and insects. Margaret approached, incredulous. "What's in there?" "Our real retirement." Harold opened the box. Inside were bundles and bundles of money, carefully wrapped in plastic. Margaret was speechless. "Harold, how much money is this?" $50,000, and this is just from one hiding spot." "What do you mean, just from one?" "Margaret, over the years, I created 17 different hiding spots, some with more money, others with less. In total, it's more than $800,000. Margaret sat down heavily on the ground. $800,000? Harold, we're rich. Not exactly rich, but independent. Independent enough not to need to rely on ungrateful children. But why did you never tell me? Because I wanted it to be a surprise for you too, and because I was afraid that, knowing about the money, we wouldn't raise our children the right way." "And did we?" Harold looked around the abandoned farm, remembering how simple and happy they were when they were young. "I don't know, Margaret. Maybe we gave them everything too good. Maybe they never learned to appreciate what they had. Or maybe the problem isn't ours. Maybe they chose to be that way." "Could be." Harold put part of the money in his pocket and reburied the rest. "Let's head back to the road. I need to make some calls." "What calls?" "First, I'll call Anthony and ask him to pick us up again. Second, I'll call a lawyer." "A lawyer? What for?" "To change our will and for other things too." The couple walked back to the main road, where Harold used Margaret Thompson's phone to call Anthony. "Anthony, it's Harold again. Can you pick us up? We changed our minds about staying here." "Of course, I'm on my way." Half an hour later, the truck stopped beside them again. Anthony noticed the couple looked different, more hopeful. "Did you find what you were looking for?" "We did," Harold smiled. "And much more than we imagined." "Great. Where to now?" "To town. We have some important matters to take care of." During the trip, Harold explained the situation to Anthony, omitting only the details about the buried money. "So your children really abandoned you?" Anthony was outraged. "Abandoned," Margaret Thompson confirmed, her voice firmer now. "That's outrageous. How could they do that to their own parents?" "Greed, Anthony. Pure greed." "And what are you going to do now?" "We're going to stand up for ourselves," Harold replied with determination. In town, Anthony took them to a small hotel and offered to pay for the room. "No need, Anthony. We can pay." "Are you sure? I don't want to be nosy, but—" "We're sure." Harold discreetly showed some of the paper money. "And thank you so much for everything. You were an angel in our lives today." "You're welcome. If you need anything, you can call me." In the hotel room, Harold called Dr. Sebastian Morgan, the family lawyer for over 20 years. "Dr. Sebastian, it's Harold Wilson. Harold, how are you?" "It's been so long." "Doctor, I need to talk to you urgently. It's about my will." "Your will? Did something happen?" "A lot has happened. Can I come to your office tomorrow morning?" "Of course. Is 9 o'clock good?" "Perfect. May I ask the reason for the urgency?" "I found out some things about my children that changed everything, Doctor. Everything." That night, in the hotel, Harold told the whole truth to Margaret Thompson, about the 17 hiding spots, about the total amount of money saved, about the plans he had made over the years. "I always dreamed of leaving an inheritance for our children," he said, holding her hands. "But now, I don't know if they deserve it." "What do you plan to do?" "First, we'll make sure we have enough to live well for the rest of our lives, without depending on anyone. Second, we'll decide if our children deserve anything or not. And if we decide they don't deserve it, then we'll find a better way to use that money, a way that really makes a difference in the world. How? I don't know yet, but we'll figure it out together." The next morning, the couple arrived at Dr. Sebastian Morgan's office promptly at 9 o'clock. The lawyer, a 60-year-old man with graying hair and glasses, welcomed them warmly. "Harold, Margaret Thompson, what a joy to see you." "Doctor, we have a delicate situation to resolve." Harold got straight to the point. "Go ahead." Harold told the whole story of the abandonment, the conversations he had overheard, the lies from his children. The lawyer was shocked. "That's terrible. How can children do something like that? Exactly, Doctor. And now we want to take some legal steps. What kind of steps? First, we want to completely change our will. Second, we want to make sure that if anything happens to us, our children can't have us committed against our will. I see. And what would be the new distribution of assets? Harold looked at Margaret, who nodded. Doctor, before we talk about the will, I need to confess something. I have more assets than you imagine. What do you mean? Harold explained about the hidden savings, the 17 hiding spots, the total of over 800,000 reais. Dr. Sebastian almost fell off his chair. Harold, you have almost 1,000,000 reais hidden. I do, and now I want to legalize everything and decide the fate of this money. But why did you never tell me this before? Because I didn't want anyone to know. Not even my wife knew until yesterday. And now, what do you want to do? We want to remove our 3 children from the will and leave everything to social projects, or to people who really need it. Are you sure about this? It's a very drastic decision. Doctor, Margaret spoke for the first time, our children abandoned us like we were trash, after 50 years of dedication and love. If they are capable of that, they don't deserve our inheritance. I understand your feelings, but... There is no but, Doctor, Harold interrupted. Our decision is final. All right, I'll prepare the documents, but you need to know that the children could contest the will by claiming you weren't in your right mind. That's why we want you to arrange a medical report proving our mental sanity. Good idea. I know a psychiatrist who can do that evaluation today. Perfect. While the lawyer made the necessary calls, Margaret's phone rang. It was Richard. Mom, where are you? We went to the place where we left you and there was no one there. Oh, you decided to come back? Margaret replied with irony. Mom, don't be like that. We explained we had car trouble. Richard, your father threw his phone away because he couldn't stand hearing your lies anymore. Lies? Mom, I don't understand. You don't understand, then I'll explain. We know you abandoned us on purpose. We heard the conversation about selling our house and putting us in a cheap clinic. Silence on the other end of the line. Mom, I can explain. You don't need to explain anything, Richard. We already understand everything. You only care about our inheritance. That's not it, Mom. Actually, since you brought up the subject of inheritance, we have some news for you. What news? We're at the lawyer's office changing our will. All 3 of you are being removed as heirs. What? Richard shouted into the phone. You heard me. You won't inherit anything. 0. Mom, you can't do this. We're your children. Children who abandoned us in the middle of the desert. Children who only think about money. Children who treat us like dead weight. Mom, please, let's talk in person. Talk to our lawyer, Dr. Sebastian Morgan. He'll explain everything clearly. Mom, don't hang up, Mom! Margaret hung up the phone, her hands shaking with nerves and adrenaline. How do you feel? Harold asked. Scared but relieved. For the first time in years, I feel like we're making a decision for ourselves, not thinking about the children. Dr. Sebastian finished his calls. Everything is scheduled. At 2 o'clock you have an appointment with Dr. Henry Roberts, psychiatrist. He'll do the mental sanity evaluation, and tomorrow morning we can sign the new will. Perfect, Harold smiled. Doctor, one question. Can our children do anything to harm us? You can try, but if you have a medical report proving sanity, and you stand firm in your decision, it will be hard to reverse. And if they try to have us committed by force, with the medical report and a power of attorney I'll prepare, that becomes impossible. You'll have full legal protection. Margaret Thompson's phone rang again. It was Patricia. Mum, Richard told me everything. Please don't do this to us. Patricia, you did it first. You abandoned us as if we were nothing. Mom, it was a misunderstanding. We can explain everything. Explain what? That we're not dead weight? That you didn't want to get rid of us to keep the inheritance for yourselves? Mom, we were worried about you. We thought it would be better for you to be in a place with specialized care. That's a lie, Patricia. You wanted our house and our money. What money, Mom? You don't have any money. Oh, we don't. Margaret Thompson smiled at Harold Wilson. Patricia, you're in for a very big surprise. What surprise? Finding out your parents aren't as poor as you thought. What are you talking about? I'm saying that for 40 years your father saved money without you knowing, and that now we have much more than you imagine. How much money? Enough to be independent from ungrateful children. Mom, please. Patricia, you had your chance. 50 years of chances. And you chose to abandon us. Now deal with the consequences. Margaret Thompson hung up again. It's getting easier, she said to Harold. What? Telling them the truth. Standing up for ourselves. It really is. I'm feeling stronger too. Dr. Sebastian watched the couple with admiration. You're doing the right thing. No one deserves to be treated like that by their own children. Doctor, Harold asked, do you have children? I do. 2 sons and a daughter. How is your relationship? Good, thank God. They visit me regularly. They care about me. Of course we have our differences sometimes, but they've never been disrespectful. Tell me, Margaret Thompson said, how did you raise your children to be like that? Well, Margaret Thompson, I don't know if I did everything right, but I always tried to teach values, respect, gratitude, responsibility. And when they made mistakes, there were consequences. I didn't let them off easy. Maybe that was our mistake, Harold reflected. We let them off too easy. We gave them everything they wanted without asking for anything in return. That could be, but you can't blame yourselves. But you did what you thought was right at the time, and now we're doing what we think is right now, Margaret Thompson completed. At 2 o'clock, the couple arrived at Dr. Henry Roberts's office. The psychiatrist, a young but experienced man, received them professionally. Dr. Sebastian explained your situation to me. I'll do a complete evaluation to certify that you're in full mental capacity to make decisions about your assets. The evaluation lasted 2 hours. The doctor asked questions about memory, logical reasoning, judgment ability, and emotional stability. At the end, he gave the verdict. You're absolutely lucid and capable. I'll issue the report still today. Doctor, Harold asked, in your professional opinion, is our decision to remove our children from the inheritance coherent? Considering what you've told me about the abandonment, it's perfectly coherent. You're protecting yourselves from people who've shown they don't care about your well-being. And if our children claim we're being vindictive, vengeance would be actively harming them. You're merely choosing not to benefit them. It's different. Leaving the office, the couple felt more confident than ever. They had a medical report, a competent lawyer, and a clear plan. Margaret, Harold said, want to know something? What? For the first time in years, I feel like we're masters of our own life. Me too. It's a strange feeling, but a good one. Do you know what we're going to do now? What? We're going to have dinner at a fancy restaurant, with our own money, without worrying about expenses. Harold, have you lost your mind? No, my love, I've woken up. We've woken up. That night the couple dined at the best restaurant in town. They ate well, drank wine, and talked about plans for the future, plans that didn't involve ungrateful children or financial worries. Harold, Margaret said, raising her glass of wine, a toast. To what? To our freedom, and to the 50 years we still have ahead of us. 50 years? Why not? We're going to live to be 120. They laughed together for the first time in many months. The pain of abandonment was still there, but it was beginning to be replaced by something new. Hope. Margaret Thompson's phone rang again. It was Michael. Mom, please, answer. We need to talk. Michael, there's nothing to talk about. Our decision is made. Mom, you can't do this. We're a family. Family? Michael, family doesn't abandon family in the middle of the desert. Mom, it was all a terrible misunderstanding. It wasn't a misunderstanding. We heard you planning everything, every word. Mom, let us explain in person. We don't want explanations. We want you to learn that actions have consequences. But Mom, how are we going to live? We were counting on your inheritance for our plans. Margaret Thompson was silent for a few seconds, absorbing what she had just heard. Michael, are you telling me you were counting on our inheritance for your plans? That's not it, Mom. I meant... You said exactly what you thought. You had already divided our inheritance before we even died. Mom, Michael, do you know what the difference is between you and us? What? We worked our whole lives to earn our things. You're waiting for us to die to inherit them. That's sad, son. Very sad. Mum, it's not like that. It is like that. And now you're going to have to learn to live without counting on money that isn't yours. Margaret Thompson hung up and turned off her phone. Each conversation makes me more convinced that we're doing the right thing, she said to Harold. Why? They only talk about money. None of them apologized for abandoning us. None asked if we're okay. They only care about the inheritance. It's true. And that saddens me deeply. Me too. But at the same time, it relieves me. How so? Because now I know we're not taking money away from people who need it. We're taking it from greedy people who only think of themselves. The next morning, they returned to Mr. Sebastian's office to sign the new will. The lawyer had prepared everything perfectly. So, to confirm, you want to leave the entire inheritance to charities and social projects? Confirmed, the couple answered in unison. And specifically, to which institutions? Half to a home for needy seniors, Harold said. So they may have in their old age the care that our children denied us. And the other half? Asked the lawyer. For a public school, Margaret Thompson added. So other children may have the education our children had, but learn values that ours did not. A perfect choice, Mr. Sebastian smiled. I'll include these specifications. While the lawyer was preparing the final documents, the office phone rang. Mr. Sebastian, it's Richard Santos, Mr. Harold's son. I need to speak with you urgently. The lawyer looked at the couple, who shook their heads no. Richard, your parents are here and don't want to speak with you at the moment. Doctor, please. It's about the will. They can't do this. Yes, they can, Richard. They are of sound mind and have the right to dispose of their assets as they wish. But, Doctor, we're the children. We have a right to our share. Actually, you don't. Your parents can leave their assets to whomever they wish, the law allows it. But what if we prove they're being influenced by someone? By whom? They're making this decision on their own, after much reflection. Doctor, please let me speak with them. Dr. Sebastian covered the phone and asked the couple, Do you want to talk to him? No, Harold answered firmly. Richard, your parents don't wish to speak right now. If they want to talk in the future, they'll contact you. Doctor, this is absurd. I'll sue everyone. You have that right, Richard. But you'll lose. The lawyer hung up the phone. Did you see? Not a word of regret or apology, just threats and concern about money. We saw, Margaret sighed. That's what saddens me the most. They don't even care about the pain they've caused us. Only about what they'll lose, Harold added. The documents were ready by late afternoon, the new will was signed, the medical report attached, and the protective powers of attorney in effect. There, Dr. Sebastian announced. You're completely protected. Your children can no longer make any decisions about your lives or your assets. And now, Margaret asked. Now you live, the lawyer smiled. Live however you want, with whomever you want, wherever you want. Leaving the office, the couple felt a freedom they hadn't experienced in decades. They no longer had to worry about pleasing ungrateful children or saving money for an inheritance that would be misused. Harold, Margaret said, you know something? Yes, I feel like we've been reborn. Why? Because for the first time in 50 years our life is just ours. We don't have to think about the children, their needs, their whims. We can think about ourselves. It's a strange feeling, isn't it? Yes, but good. Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, please take a moment to like and especially subscribe to the channel. It really helps us who are just starting out, now continuing. That night at the hotel, the couple talked about what to do with the rest of their lives. They had health, money, and for the first time in decades, total freedom. You know what I'd like to do, Margaret said. What? Travel. Visit places we've always dreamed of seeing. Where to? Dry Tortugas, you always said you wanted to see it. That's true, and you always wanted to see the Grand Canyon. Then let's go. We have money, we have time, we have health. Why not? Margaret, you're right. Let's live as if we were young again, only now with the wisdom of age and money to enjoy. They laughed together, making plans like a couple of sweethearts. The phone rang again. It was an unknown number. Hello? Margaret answered. Mrs. Margaret? It's Anthony, the truck driver who helped you yesterday. Hi, Anthony, how did you get our number? I asked at the hotel. I hope you don't mind. I was worried about you. How kind of you. We're fine. Yes. Very well, actually. Did you manage to solve your problems? We did, and we discovered many important things. That's great. And your children? Did they show up? They did, but not in the way we expected. What do you mean? Margaret briefly recounted what had happened. Anthony was outraged. That's outrageous. How could they do that to you? Indeed, Anthony, but we found out we don't need them. True. You're special people and deserve better. Anthony, Harold took the phone. You saved us yesterday. If it weren't for your help, I don't know what would have happened to us. Oh, it was nothing, Mr. Harold. Anyone would have done the same. No, Anthony, not anyone would have. Our own children didn't. Yeah, it really is sad. Anthony, we'd like to invite you. What invitation? We want you to be our first official friend in this new phase of our lives. What do you mean? We want you to have dinner with us tomorrow, as our guest, to celebrate our fresh start. Wow, what an honor, I accept. Great, see you tomorrow then. After the call, Margaret Thompson looked at Harold with admiration. You seem different. Different how? More confident, more decisive, more free. That's how I feel. Free. Like a huge weight has been lifted off my shoulders. What weight? The weight of pleasing children who were never satisfied. The weight of saving money for people who only saw us as a source of cash. The weight of living for others instead of living for ourselves. Harold? Yes? I love you more today than on the day we got married. Why? Because today I saw the brave man you always were, but who stayed hidden behind the role of dedicated father. And I love you even more for supporting me in all the difficult decisions we made. They were our decisions, Harold. Finally, our decisions. The next morning, the couple woke up with renewed energy. They had a list of plans for the day. Go to the bank to legalize part of the buried money, buy new clothes and choose their first travel destination. At the bank, the manager was surprised by the amount they wanted to deposit. Mr. Harold, where does all this money come from? From a lifetime of work and saving, young man. 40 years of setting aside dollar by dollar. But why didn't you ever deposit it before? Because the time wasn't right. Now it is. And do you plan to make any investments? We want part of it invested to generate a monthly income and another part available for spending. May I suggest some options? Yes, you may. The manager presented several investment alternatives. With $800,000 well invested, the couple would have a monthly income of approximately $8,000 without touching the principal. With $8,000 a month, you can live very comfortably, the manager commented. We can travel, see places, do things we've always dreamed of. Margaret Thompson smiled. Exactly. And there's still money left for small luxuries. Leaving the bank, the couple felt accomplished. They had financial security and freedom to make choices without depending on anyone. At the clothing store, they bought items they had wanted for years but considered a waste of money. Margaret Thompson chose an elegant blue dress that enhanced her eyes. Harold bought a dress shirt and fine fabric pants. How long has it been since we dressed this nicely? She asked, admiring herself in the mirror. Years. We always thought it was better to save. And what were we saving for children who see us as dead weight? Well, now we're saving for ourselves. In the afternoon, they met with Anthony for the promised dinner. The truck driver was impressed by the couple's transformation. You two are unrecognizable. You look 10 years younger. It's the power of freedom, Anthony. Harold smiled. Freedom. To live for ourselves instead of living for people who don't value us. During dinner, they told Anthony all the details about the situation with their children and the decisions they had made. You did the right thing, he said. Children who abandon their parents don't deserve an inheritance. That's what we think too. And what are you going to do now? We're going to travel, Margaret Thompson said excitedly. See Arizona, maybe other states. Do everything we always wanted but never could. What good, Envy? I want to retire and travel too. How old are you, Anthony? Harold asked. 52. You're still young, you have plenty of time ahead. That's true, but seeing you, I realize life doesn't end at 70. In fact, it seems like it's just beginning for you. That's exactly how we feel, Margaret Thompson confirmed. Margaret Thompson's phone rang. It was a number she didn't recognize. Hello? Grandma? It's Emma. Emma was the youngest daughter of Richard, 16 years old. She was the only grandchild who maintained a loving relationship with her grandparents. Hi, my dear, how did you get my number? Daddy gave it to me. Grandma, is it true that you cut him and the uncles out of the inheritance? Margaret Thompson looked at Harold Wilson, who nodded for her to tell the truth. It's true, Emma. Why? Because they did something very ugly to us, my child. What thing? Margaret Thompson explained to her granddaughter in a delicate way what had happened. They abandoned you in the middle of nowhere. Emma was horrified. They abandoned us. But why? Because they think we're dead weight, and because they only care about our money. Grandma, that's terrible. I didn't know any of this. We know you didn't, dear. You've always been affectionate with us. Grandma, can I ask you something? Go ahead. Are you mad at me too? At you? Why would we be mad at you? Because I'm Daddy's daughter. Emma, listen carefully to what Grandma is going to tell you. You never mistreated us. You always treated us with affection and respect. Our problem is with your parents and your uncles, not with you. So you still love me? Of course we love you. You're our dear little granddaughter. Grandma, can I tell you something? Go ahead. I argued with Daddy when I found out what he did. I told him he was mean and that you didn't deserve that. And what did he say? That I didn't understand because I'm young. But I do understand, Grandma. I understand that you were always good to us and didn't deserve to be treated like that. Emma, you're a very special girl. Grandma, can I come visit you? Of course you can, whenever you want. Even if Daddy doesn't allow it? You're already 16 years old. You can make your own decisions about who you want to have a relationship with. Then I'll come there tomorrow. I want to hug you and apologize for what my father did. Emma, you're not to blame for what your father did. But I'm his daughter, and I feel ashamed. Don't feel that way, dear. You're different from him. You're a good person. After hanging up, Margaret Thompson had tears in her eyes. What is it? Harold Wilson asked, concerned. Emma, she argued with Richard because of us, and she wants to come visit. That girl has always been special. Yes, Harold. At least one person in the family still has a heart. Anthony. Harold turned to his friend. You'll meet our granddaughter tomorrow. She's the only decent one in the family. It will be a pleasure. That night, the couple slept peacefully for the first time in weeks. They had made the difficult decisions, protected themselves legally, and discovered that there was still true love in the family through their granddaughter. The next morning, Emma arrived at the hotel. She was a pretty teenager, with brown hair and bright eyes, very similar to Margaret Thompson when she was young. Grandpa, Grandma, she ran to hug them. My beautiful granddaughter, Margaret Thompson cried with emotion. I missed you both so much. It's been over a month since we last saw each other. We missed you too, dear. Harold Wilson kissed her forehead. Grandpa, is it true that you're rich? Why do you ask that? Because Daddy said you were hiding money from the family. Emma, Harold sat down beside her. Your grandfather worked hard for 40 years to save some money for our old age. We didn't hide it from the family. We just didn't talk about it because we wanted your parents to learn to earn things for themselves. And did they learn? Unfortunately, no. They only care about money, not about us. Grandpa, can I ask a kind of difficult question? Go ahead. Are you going to cut me out of the inheritance too? Margaret Thompson and Harold Wilson exchanged glances. Emma, why do you want to know that? Because I don't care about inheritance. I just want to have you in my life. If you cut me out of the inheritance but still remain my grandparents, that's fine with me. And if we leave you in the inheritance but you can't see us anymore? Then I'd rather be without the inheritance. I can earn money by working. Grandparents like you I'll never find again. Margaret Thompson's eyes filled with tears. Emma, do you know why your parents are the way they are? Why? Because they think about money first and people second. You're the opposite. You think about people first and money second. I learned that from you. Then you can rest easy. You won't be cut out of any inheritance. In fact, you'll get more. How so? Since you're the only person in the family who truly loves us, you'll inherit everything we took from your parents and uncles. Emma was speechless. Everything. Everything, Harold confirmed. But that's a lot of money. Yes, it is. And we want you to use it to do good things, to study, to travel, to help people in need. Grandpa, I promise I'll make you proud of me. We're already proud, dear. You're proof that we did at least one thing right in our lives. What? We taught values to someone who truly learned them. That afternoon, Emma accompanied them on a walk around town. It was as if they were a normal family, grandparents and granddaughter enjoying time together. Grandma, Emma said while they were having ice cream in the town square, can I tell you something? Go ahead. Last night I heard Dad talking with my uncles about you. What did they say? That they were going to try to prove you're crazy to void the will. Really? Yes. They want to pay a doctor to say you're not mentally competent. Harold smiled. Emma, you can tell your father it won't work. Why? Because we've already been examined by a psychiatrist and have a report proving we're perfectly sane. That's great. But Grandpa, they also talked about hiring a detective to investigate your money. They can investigate all they want. All the money is legal, the result of honest work. And they talked about trying to have you committed to a clinic. That won't work either. We have legal protection against that. You've thought of everything. Yes, we have. We needed to protect ourselves from people who unfortunately are our family. Grandpa, can I make a suggestion? Go ahead. Why don't you leave this town? Go live somewhere else, far from my parents. That's a good idea, Emma. But what about you? How will we see each other? I'm 16. In 2 years I can leave home. And until then, I can visit you during vacations and weekends. You'd be okay with that? Of course. I'd rather have happy grandparents far away than unhappy ones nearby. Emma, Margaret Thompson held her granddaughter's hand. Are you sure you're Richard's daughter? Because you don't resemble him at all. Grandma, Emma laughed. I think I take after you instead of my parents. Thank God. That evening, when Emma had left, the couple talked about her suggestion. Harold, what do you think about moving? I think it's good. Here we'll always be subject to our children's attacks. Where could we go? How about a coastal town? We've always dreamed of living near the ocean. True. And with our monthly income we can rent a good house anywhere. Or even buy a small house. Harold, you know what excites me the most? What? The idea of starting a new life, in a new place, with new people. People who don't know our painful history. Exactly. People who know us only as Harold and Margaret, a 70-year-old couple in love, instead of being known as the elderly abandoned by their children. That's right. That night they began researching coastal towns where they could start over. After much discussion, they decided on Key West in Miami. Why Key West? Margaret asked. Because it's beautiful, has good infrastructure, and it's far enough from Arizona for our children not to bother us, and close enough for Emma to visit us. Exactly. The next morning, they called a real estate agency in Key West and scheduled a video conference to see some house options. The agent, a friendly woman named Felicia, showed several properties through the computer. This house here is perfect for a couple, she said, showing a 2-bedroom home 200 meters from the beach. It has a garden, a garage, and a beautiful ocean view. How much is the rent? Harold asked. $3,500 per month. And to buy? 400,000 reais. The couple exchanged glances. With 800,000 reais, they could buy the house and still have 400,000 to invest. We want to buy, Harold said. Really? Without even seeing it in person? We want to see it in person first. Can we come there next week? Of course. I'll reserve the house for you. After the conversation, the couple was thrilled. Harold, are we really doing this? We are. We're going to live in Key West. I never thought at 70 years old I'd be moving to a town I don't even know. Me neither. But I never thought at 70 I'd be abandoned by my own children. True, life surprises us, doesn't it? For better or for worse. But this time, We've decided it will be for the better. That afternoon, the phone rang. It was Dr. Sebastian. Harold, I have news about your children. What news? They hired a lawyer to contest the will. That was expected. So? Their lawyer has already contacted me. He wants to negotiate. Negotiate what? They propose that you leave at least 20% of the inheritance to each of them. And what did you say? That I would talk to you and give an answer. Doctor, our answer is no, 0%. Are you sure? They could make your lives difficult with endless lawsuits. Let them. We have health, money, and the will to fight. And if they try other strategies, like trying to prove mental incapacity, we've already thought about that. We're moving far away from here. Where to? Key West. We're going to start our lives over there. Excellent idea, but I'll miss you. We'll miss you too, but you can visit us whenever you want. I certainly will. A week later, the couple was at the airport heading to Miami. They carried only a few clothes and a lot of hope. Harold, Margaret said on the plane, I'm not nervous. No, I'm excited. For the first time in decades, I'm excited about the future. Me too. I feel like we're starting an adventure. A romantic adventure. Like two young lovers. Only now with the wisdom of seniors and money in the bank. They laughed together as the plane took off, taking them to a new life. In Key West, they immediately fell in love with the town. The beaches, the climate, the romantic atmosphere, everything conspired to make them feel like they were on their honeymoon again. This house is perfect, Margaret said, exploring the property they had seen via video conference, and the ocean view is even more beautiful in person. Harold, I want to buy it. Me too. So let's sign the contract today. Let's. That afternoon, they became homeowners in Key West. It was official. They had started their lives over. That night, sitting on the porch of their new home watching the ocean under the moonlight, they talked about the future. You know what moves me the most about all this? Margaret asked. What? It's that we've discovered it's never too late to be happy. True, at 70 years old we're happier than we were at 50, because now we're free to be ourselves, and because we've learned that true family is those who truly love us, not those who share our last name. Speaking of which, Emma called today. She wants to spend the December holidays here. What joy! Our first visitor in the new house. And certainly not the last. I'm sure we'll make many friends here. People who will know us for who we really are, not for the problems we've had. Exactly. Margaret Thompson's phone rang. It was a number from Arizona. Must be one of the kids, she said. Should I answer or not? I'll answer, but only to let them know where we are. Hello? Mom, it's Patricia. Where are you? We came to the hotel and they said you checked out. We moved, Patricia. What do you mean you moved? Exactly that. We don't live in Arizona anymore. Where did you go? To a place where we can be happy. Mom, stop this. Come back home. This is our home now, Patricia. A home we bought with our own money, far from children who only cause us pain. Mom, we need to talk in person. No, we don't. We've already said everything we had to say. Mom, at least tell me where you are. In a beautiful place, Patricia. A place where we wake up happy every day. But where? That's none of your business. Son, you lost the right to know about our lives when you abandoned us in the desert. Mom, Patricia, if you ever feel true regret for what you did and want to apologize from the heart, you can find us through Dr. Sebastian. He knows how to reach us. What about the will? The will remains as it is. You won't inherit anything. Mom, that's unfair. Unfair was what you did to us. Now you're reaping what you sowed. Margaret Thompson hung up the phone. How do you feel? Harold asked. Relieved. For the first time I felt I had control of the situation. It feels good, doesn't it? It's great. And you know what? I think she got scared. Scared of what? That we really won't change our minds. And we won't change our minds, right? Of course not. Unless they completely change and become different people. Which is very unlikely. Impossible, I'd say. In the following months, the couple adapted perfectly to life in Key West. They made friends, established pleasant routines, and discovered simple pleasures like walking on the beach at dawn and watching the sunset every afternoon. "Harold," Margaret said one morning, "it's been 3 months since we last thought about our children. That's true, the pain fades when we focus on good things, and when we're surrounded by people who are good for us." They had become friends with other elderly couples living in town, and also with some younger neighbors who treated them with affection and respect. "You know what I discovered?" Harold said. "What?" "That there are many good people in the world. Our children are the exception, not the rule." "True. Mrs. Caroline, Mr. Rodney, Felicia from the real estate agency, they all treat us like family. Because they see us as people, not as a source of inheritance." In December, Emma arrived to spend the holidays. She was radiant, as always, and was enchanted with Key West. "Grandpa, you chose the most beautiful place in the world to live. You like it?" "I love it. Can I come here often?" "Of course you can. This is your home too. And how are you?" "Happy?" "Happier than we've ever been," Margaret answered. "Even after everything that happened." "Especially after everything that happened, because we discovered we don't need toxic people in our lives, even if they're family." "Grandma, can I ask a kind of annoying question?" "Go ahead." "Do you miss my parents and my uncles?" Margaret thought before answering. "Emma, we miss the children we thought we had, but we discovered those children never really existed." "What do you mean?" "We thought we had raised 3 loving and grateful people, but we actually raised 3 greedy and selfish people. So we miss an illusion, not real people." "I see. And do you think they can change?" "They can. Anyone can change," Harold answered. "But they would have to want to change, and from what we see, they only want our money. Grandpa, they're trying to convince me to take their side. And do you want to?" "No. They promise me material things if I can convince you to go back to the old will, but I don't want material things. I want a real family." "And you have a real family?" Margaret Thompson smiled. "The 3 of us." "That's true. You, me, and all the love we have for each other." That night, the 3 of them had dinner at a pizzeria by the sea. It was a simple scene, but full of genuine affection. "Emma," Harold said, "in 2 years you'll be 18. "I will. And then you can choose where you want to live." "I've already chosen. I want to live here with you." "Are you sure? It's an important decision." "I'm absolutely sure. You're the only people who truly love me. And you're the only person in the family who truly loves us too. Then we're a perfect family." "Yes, we are." At the beginning of the following year, Dr. Sebastian called with news. "Harold, your children have dropped the lawsuits." "How so?" "Their lawyer said there's no way to contest the will. You did everything right. And now they want to try an out-of-court settlement." "What kind of settlement?" "They propose to formally apologize in exchange for a portion of the inheritance." Harold was silent for a few seconds. "Doctor, do they want to apologize because they feel remorse or because they want money?" "From what I understand, it's more about the money." "Then it's not a real apology. It's emotional blackmail." "That's how I see it too." Our answer remains no. "Harold, may I give my personal opinion?" "Go ahead." "You're right. Self-serving apologies are worthless." "Thank you, Doctor. It's good to know we're not crazy." "You're not. You're being consistent and dignified." After the call, Harold told everything to Margaret Thompson. "They only want to apologize to get money," she commented. "Exactly. If the remorse were genuine, they wouldn't be conditioning the apologies on the inheritance." "Harold, do you know what this makes me feel?" "What?" "Relief. Because now I'm absolutely sure we made the right choice." "Why?" "Because even after a year, they still only think about money. They haven't changed at all." "True. If they had really changed, they would have apologized without expecting anything in return. And they would have asked if we're okay, if we're happy, if we need anything. But they only ask about inheritance, which confirms that it was always just about money for them." That night, the couple took a walk on the beach. It was a starry night with a gentle breeze and the sound of the waves. "Margaret," Harold said, "I have a confession to make." "What confession?" "I'm grateful for what our children did." "How so?" "If they hadn't abandoned us, We would never have discovered that we can be happy on our own. That's true. We would never have had the courage to live for ourselves. We would never have moved to Key West. We would never have made our new friends. We would never have discovered that at 70 we can still have adventures. Harold, you're right. In the end, they did us a favor. They did. They set us free. And now we're free to love those who truly love us. Like Emma. Like Emma. And like each other. Margaret. Yes? I love you more today than on the day we got married. Why? Because today I know you choose to stay with me every day, not out of obligation or tradition, but because you want to. And I love you more because I saw your strength when everything seemed lost. I saw that you're capable of starting over at 70. We're capable, Margaret, the two of us together. Together we can do anything. 2 years later, Emma graduated from high school and moved permanently to Key West. They rented a larger house with 3 bedrooms to accommodate the complete family. Grandma, Emma said on moving day, officially now we're a family. We've always been a family, my dear. It's just that now we live together. And you know what? I've never been happier in my life. Why? Because I finally have the family I always dreamed of. A family where people truly love each other, genuinely care for one another, and want the best for each other. Emma, Harold said, you've given us a priceless gift. What gift? The certainty that we didn't completely fail as educators. You're proof that we managed to teach values to at least one person. And you gave me the gift of showing me what a real family should be like. That's what family is, Margaret smiled. Choosing to be together even when it's hard, loving even when it's not convenient, and always protecting one another. And a true family isn't defined by blood, Harold added. It's defined by love. Then we're the truest family in the world. At that time, Emma started her psychology degree in Key Largo, the city next to Key West. Why did you choose psychology? Margaret asked. Because of you. How so? Living with you, I learned that many families have emotional problems. I want to help people solve these problems before it's too late. I'm so proud of you, my granddaughter, and I want to specialize in geriatrics, to help elderly people going through situations like the ones you went through. Emma, you're going to do so much good for the world, Harold said, moved. I hope so, Grandpa. And when I graduate, I want to open a clinic here in Key West. Can you help me? Of course, with the greatest pleasure. Shall we be partners? We'll be family working together. During Emma's college years, the couple got involved in social activities in the city. Harold became a volunteer at a local school, teaching math to underprivileged children. Margaret started giving cooking classes to women from the simpler neighborhood. Harold, she said one evening, you know what I discovered? What? That helping others is the best medicine to heal our own pain. It's true. When I see the joy of those children learning math, I forget all our problems. And when I see the women proud of the dishes they learn to make, I feel that our life has purpose. It always had purpose, Margaret. It's just that before we thought the purpose was raising our children. And now we've discovered that the purpose is to be useful to the world, and to those who truly need us. In their 5th year living in Key West, Dr. Sebastian called with unexpected news. Harold, your son Michael wants to talk to you. What for? He says he wants to apologize, but this time it seems different. Different how? He didn't mention inheritance once. He only said he wants to make amends for what he did. Doctor, do you think he's sincere? I don't know, Harold, but he seemed genuinely remorseful. What happened to make him change his mind? His wife threatened to leave him if he didn't resolve this situation. She said she can't stand living with a man who abandoned his own parents anymore. Interesting. And what exactly does he want? He wants to come there to apologize in person, without lawyers, without conditions, without demands. Harold talked with Margaret and Emma about the proposal. What do you think? He asked. I think we should give him a chance, Emma said. Maybe he's really changed. And you, Margaret? I don't know, Harold. I'm afraid it might be another manipulation. But what if he's sincere? What if he's truly sorry? Then we'll forgive him, but very carefully. All right. I'll tell Dr. Sebastian that he can come. But with conditions, Margaret added. What conditions? First, he comes alone. Second, he stays no more than 2 days. Third, if we notice any manipulation, he leaves immediately. I agree, Emma said, and I'll be present in all conversations. A week later, Michael arrived in Key West. He was a 45-year-old man, his hair already graying with a tired appearance. He seemed to have aged a lot in recent years. When he rang the doorbell, Margaret Thompson's heart raced. "Take a deep breath," Harold said, holding her hand. "Let's see if he's really changed." Emma opened the door. "Hi, Uncle Michael." "Hi, Emma. You look beautiful, and so grown up. I almost didn't recognize you." "Thank you. Come in." Michael entered the house and stood still in the living room, looking at his parents. It had been 5 years since they had seen each other in person. "Dad. Mum." His voice trembled. "Hi, Michael," Harold replied, remaining serious. Are you well? You look good, healthy." "We are." "The house is beautiful, and this place is paradise." "Yes," Margaret said, still wary. Michael was silent for a few seconds, looking around. May I sit?" "You may." He sat in the armchair, while the couple remained on the sofa and Emma in a nearby chair. "Dad, Mum, I came here to apologize." "We're listening," Harold said. "First, I want to say that what we did to you was the most terrible thing I've ever done in my life. I have no justification. I have no excuse. It was purely malice and greed." Margaret watched him closely, looking for signs of sincerity. "Go on," she said. "Second, I want to say that I've spent these 5 years hating myself. Every day I remember what we did, and I feel like a monster." "And why only now did you come to apologize?" Emma asked. "Because only now did I have the courage to admit I was wrong, and because my wife threatened to leave me if I didn't try to make amends." "Does your wife know everything?" Margaret asked. "She does, and she was horrified. She said she married a good man and found out she was married to a monster. And how did she find out? I told her. I couldn't bear carrying this burden alone anymore." Harold leaned forward. "Michael, what do you want from us?" "Forgiveness, Dad. Just forgiveness." "And nothing else?" "Nothing. I know I don't deserve an inheritance. I know you were wise to remove me from the will. A person who abandons their own parents in the desert doesn't deserve to inherit anything." "And if we forgive you, will you want us to go back to the old will?" "No, Dad. Forgiveness has nothing to do with money. I just want you to know that I'm truly sorry and that I love you, even though I've been a terrible son." Margaret felt her eyes well up. "Michael," she said, "look into my eyes and tell me, are you speaking the truth?" "I am, Mom. I am speaking the truth. And if you don't forgive me, I'll understand. Because what I did is unforgivable." "Why did you do that, son?" Harold asked, his voice choked. "Out of greed, Dad. Pure greed. We thought you were an obstacle to our inheritance. We wanted you to disappear so we could have the money. And now I know that money is worthless compared to a parent's love. I've discovered that I'm an empty man who only thought about material possessions. What made you change? Seeing my wife cry when she found out what I did. Seeing my children become ashamed of the father they have. And most of all, feeling the emptiness of life without you. Do you miss us?" "I do, Mom, very much, every day." "And Richard and Patricia, how are they?" "Richard is still the same. Only thinks about money. Patricia is starting to question some things, but she hasn't had the courage to admit she was wrong yet." "And did you try to convince them to come too?" "I tried. But they think I'm foolish for being here, begging for forgiveness, with no guarantee of inheritance." Emma got up and went to the window. "Uncle Michael," she said, "can I ask a question?" "You may. If my grandparents forgive you, but keep the will as it is, will you still be a loving son?" "I will, Emma, because I've learned that being a son isn't about receiving an inheritance. It's about loving your parents unconditionally. And if they forgive you and change the will, including you again, it would be undeserved generosity. But I would still be the same loving son, because now I understand the value of family love. Margaret Thompson stood up and walked to the window too. "Michael," she said without looking at him, "do you want to know if we forgive you?" "I do, Mother." "We forgive you." Michael began to cry. "Thank you, Mother, thank you very much." "But," Harold Wilson continued, "forgiving doesn't mean things will go back to how they were." "I know, Father. It means we don't hold a grudge, but we still need to rebuild trust." "I understand, and I'm willing to work to regain your trust." "How do you plan to do that?" Emma asked. "By being present, visiting you whenever possible, showing through actions, not just words, that I've changed." "And your siblings?" "My siblings will have to make their own choices. I can't speak for them." That evening, Michael had dinner with the family. It was strange, but at the same time comforting. He talked about his life, his regrets, his plans to be a better person. "Father," he said during dessert, "may I ask a question?" "You may." "Are you happy here?" "Very happy." Margaret Thompson smiled. "More than you were in Arizona." "Much more." "Why?" "Because here we are free to be ourselves. We don't have to please anyone or live up to others' expectations. And because here," Emma added, "they found a real family." "A real family?" "Me, the friends, the neighbors. People who love them for who they are, not for what they have." Michael became thoughtful. "Father, may I ask one more question?" "You may. What do I need to do to one day be part of this real family?" "Be sincere, Michael. Keep being the person you are today. And be patient, because trust rebuilds slowly." "I will be patient, and I will prove I've changed." The next day, before leaving, Michael had one last talk with his parents. "Father, Mother, I want you to know something." "What?" "Even if you never fully forgive me, even if I'm never included in the will again, I will keep trying to be a better son." "Why?" "Because I finally understood that being a son is a responsibility, not a right, and I want to honor that responsibility." "Michael," Margaret Thompson hugged him, "this is the son I always dreamed of having. May I come visit you again?" "You may, but don't rush. Let things happen naturally." "All right, and thank you for having me. Thank you for giving me a second chance." "Everyone deserves a second chance, son. What determines if it's worthwhile are the actions after it." After Michael's departure, the couple became reflective. "What did you think?" Harold Wilson asked Margaret Thompson. "I think he really changed. I saw sincerity in his eyes." "Me too. But let's be careful. Of course, trust rebuilds gradually." "And you, Emma, what did you think?" "I thought he was being sincere, but I agree we need to observe his actions from now on. And about the will, should we include him again?" "Not yet," Margaret Thompson said. "First, let's see if the change is lasting." "I agree. If after 1 or 2 years he continues being this new man, then we can reconsider. And if he does, we'll include him. But Richard and Patricia only if they truly change too." 6 months later, Michael returned to Key West. This time he brought his wife and 2 children. "Father, Mother," he said at the door of the house, "I'd like you to meet my family." Michael's wife, Sylvia, was a 40-year-old woman, kind and polite. The children, Peter aged 12 and Sophie aged 8, were well-behaved and affectionate kids. "It's an honor to meet Michael's grandparents," Sylvia said. "He talks about you every day." "Does he talk well or badly?" Margaret Thompson joked. "He speaks with great love and great regret, and great pride." "Pride?" "Pride in having parents who were worthy, even when he wasn't." The grandchildren were delighted with their great-grandparents, and with Key West. "Grandpa Harold," Peter said, "Daddy told us you live in a beach house." "We do. Would you like to see it?" "We would." During the visit, which lasted 3 days, Michael proved to be truly a different person. He was attentive, caring, and above all interested in his parents' happiness, not in his own benefits. "Michael," Harold said on the last night, "you really have changed." "I have, Dad." "And do you know what else has changed?" "What?" My relationship with my children. Now I teach them values I learned too late. What values? Gratitude, respect for elders, unconditional love. Things you tried to teach me, but I didn't learn. And now you've learned. I have. In the worst way possible, but I've learned. Michael, Margaret said, we want to tell you something. What? We're going to include you in the will again. Mom, you don't have to. Yes, we do. Because you've proven you've changed, but with one condition. What condition? If you ever go back to being the person you were before, you'll be removed immediately and permanently. I accept the condition, and I promise you won't regret it. And your siblings? Are they still the same? Unfortunately, yes. Richard still only thinks about money, and Patricia sits on the fence without the courage to admit she was wrong. That's a shame. It is, but everyone makes their own choices. I made mine. 2 years later, Emma graduated in psychology with honors. At the graduation, a very special family was present. Grandparents Harold and Margaret, Uncle Michael with his family, and some of the couple's closest friends. Grandma, Emma said in her graduation speech, I dedicate this diploma to you, who taught me that true family is the one that loves us in difficult times and celebrates with us in happy times. After graduation, Emma opened her clinic in Key West, specializing in care for the elderly. Harold and Margaret were her first investors, providing the startup capital. Emma, a local journalist, asked in an interview, why did you decide to specialize in geriatrics? Because I lived with my grandparents and learned that the elderly are an inexhaustible source of wisdom and love. I want to help other families discover that too. And what makes your clinic different? We work not only with the elderly, but with entire families. We believe that many problems in old age are the result of unresolved family conflicts. Can you give an example? Many adult children see their elderly parents as a burden, when in fact they are treasures. Our mission is to help families rediscover love and mutual respect. Emma's clinic became a reference in the region. She developed her own method of family therapy that helped hundreds of people resolve conflicts with elderly relatives. Emma, Margaret said one evening, you've saved many families with your work. I learned from you that it's never too late to start over, and that true love always finds a way. And we learned from you that it's worth fighting for the people we truly love. 15 years after the abandonment in the desert, Harold and Margaret turned 85 years old. They were great-grandparents to 6 grandchildren, had a successful clinic in partnership with their granddaughter, and a family that truly loved them. Harold, Margaret said on their birthday, they were born on the same day, if we could go back in time, would you change anything? I would. What? I would have realized sooner that we don't need to please everyone to be happy. Anything else? I would have understood earlier that true family is chosen, not inherited. And I would have learned earlier that money can't buy love, but it can buy the freedom to love who deserves it. Margaret? Yes? Thank you. For what? For staying with me throughout this journey, for supporting me in all the difficult decisions, for building a new and true family with me. Thank you for having the courage to start over at 70, for showing me that it's never too late to be happy. You know what? Emma interrupted, arriving with a birthday cake. What? You two are proof that the best stories aren't the ones that start well. They're the ones that end well. Why? Because you turned the greatest pain of your lives into the greatest lesson, and you used that lesson to build something beautiful. And you, my dear, Harold smiled, are proof that it's always worth believing in love. And you two are proof that true love overcomes any betrayal, any abandonment, any disappointment. That night, the 3 of them sat on the house's porch, watching the sea under the stars. It was a simple scene, but full of meaning. 3 generations united by true love, mutual respect, and the certainty that family is who we choose to have by our side. You know what moves me most about this whole story? Margaret Thompson asked. What? That terrible day in the desert, which seemed like the end of everything, was actually the beginning of our true life. It's true. If our children hadn't abandoned us, we would never have discovered our strength. We would never have come to Key West. We would never have met our true friends. And I would never have had the chance to start my clinic and help so many families, Emma added. So in the end, Harold concluded, should we thank those who harmed us? We shouldn't thank the harm they did, Margaret Thompson reflected, but we can thank the strength we discovered because of it. And we can thank them for showing us who truly loves us, and who is worth loving back. True family, Emma said, isn't the one that never hurts us. It's the one that even when hurt keeps loving. It's the one that grows together, learns together, and builds something beautiful even after the pain. It's the one that chooses to be together every day, not out of obligation, but out of love. And there on the porch of a house by the sea in Key West, 3 people who had chosen each other as family were celebrating not just another birthday, but an entire life rebuilt on true love, mutual trust, and the certainty that it's never too late to start over when you have the right people by your side. End of story. Now tell me, what did you think of this story of starting over and overcoming? Do you think Harold and Margaret Thompson made the right choice by cutting their ungrateful children out of the inheritance? And have you ever been in a situation where you had to choose between blood family and heart family? Share your thoughts here in the comments. I love reading about your experiences. If this story moved you, leave your like and subscribe to the channel for more heart-touching stories. Thank you for joining me on this journey.